Have you ever thought that Kaeya was a weak character? I mean, he's a free character, right? Surely a free character couldn't be capable of such devastating damage. If you thought that Kaeya was weak, you'd be wrong. What's up guys, it's NES, and today we're going over Kaeya's strengths and weaknesses, his best team synergies, and a few solid build options that you can run him with. But before we start, can I just thank you guys for 200 subscribers? I think it'll be cool to start doing community events and giveaways, but those things will come in time, so for now, let's just look at the road ahead. And I think we should start this off by talking about Kaeya's abilities alongside his strengths and weaknesses. Kaeya excels greatly in 1v1 combat. His normal and charge attacks have some of the highest percentages among sword users. His first 3 slashes come out extremely quick, while on the 4th he'll perform a lunge attack, and on the 5th Kaeya will attempt to blink behind an enemy. If the enemy is too thick, then Kaeya will just phase out and back into his original location. I feel like I've talked about the most optimal combos with Kaeya a lot, but for a quick summary, the first 3 hits of his normal attack are good for mobile combat, while doing 2 normal hits in a charge attack provide a very high burst of damage. I have a pretty decently put together physical damage build for Kaeya up on my channel, and I've recently uploaded a video comparing both the Gladiator artifact set versus the Bloodstain artifact set, using both of these combos as test markers. Both videos will be in the description below. And so if Kaeya is good at 1v1 combat, that must mean he's not so good at 1vx combat. While Kaeya can juggle between enemies well, especially with his sprint cost reduction passive, it's not his forte. His elemental skill Frost Gnaw fires off Cryo in a cone in front of Kaeya in a short range. This skill can be both easy to use and hard to land at the same time. While it has a surprising amount of range on it, the way that auto-locking targets in this game works, sometimes you just can't get the angle you'd like to get. It's extremely beneficial to hit as many enemies as you can with this skill because of Kaeya's passives. Cold Blood Strike heals Kaeya for 15% of the damage done by Frost Gnaw per enemy. This can either be a very wimpy heal or a massive burst depending on how grouped enemies are. Meanwhile, the second passive generates elemental particles when an enemy is frozen by Frost Gnaw. So having both passives boosting this one skill makes Frost Gnaw an extremely useful ability. Not to mention it has a great damage modifier. Kaeya's elemental burst, Glacial Waltz, summons 3 ice crystals that swirl around the active character for its duration. Once summoned, Kaeya can be swapped out with any character in the party and the crystals will persist. Since Kaeya's level ascension stat is energy recharge and his elemental skill has such a short cooldown, the uptime of this burst is insanely high, almost never being inactive or unavailable. It honestly works like an additional elemental skill with how frequent it is. While this ability doesn't deal the most damage, it is a consistent way to apply the Cryo effect to enemies. Whether you need to keep Cryo on a target for that sweet melt damage, or you just want to proc Kaeya's first constellation, this ability is the king of doing that. I know most people won't have too many constellations for Kaeya, but by far the best one is the first one, giving his normal attacks and charge attacks 15% crit rate against enemies affected by Cryo element. I mean, come on guys, it's free real estate. Okay, let's move on to team building and build options for Kaeya. So like I've mentioned before, his greatest strength is going to be his ability to provide consistent physical damage. And I don't think I'm biased here, but I definitely think that his best role in a team is to be either your primary DPS or one of the main DPS you swap in while your other DPS's skills are on cooldown. For this reason, Kaeya pairs exceptionally well with most of the Electro users in the game except for Razor. When used as a primary DPS, your best synergies are going to be Beidou and Lisa. Both of these characters are able to apply Electro consistently, but also control their output. It has been brought to my attention that every time Electro is applied to an enemy that's affected by Cryo, Superconduct would occur, clearing both the Cryo and Electro element effects. And if you're using Kaeya C1 or the Cryo Elemental Resonance, this could be a problem. The solution is picking an Electro user that only applies Electro when required. That's why these two are the best at their jobs. It might also be worth mentioning that Fischl's charge attacks are another way to apply Electro as a one-time effect. But honestly, support Fischl is best played through Oz, so her and Kaeya still pair well, just maybe not as well as the other options. However, I do think Kaeya is extremely flexible. As well as being able to be played in the spotlight, he can also operate in the background. Surprisingly, Genshin can actually be supported very well by Kaeya. I know some Genshin mains are probably rolling their eyes right now because they've had to explain almost every day that Superconduct isn't useful for her. But hold on, let me explain. Genshin operates in burst. Her peaks of damage will eventually fall off when her skills are on cooldown. During this time, it might be best to keep the damage high with another option. Here enters Kaeya. Not only does he feel the downtime, but the lingering electro damage can be used to produce superconduct while he's on the field. And I haven't played Keqing myself, but I can imagine the rotation would look something like you throwing Keqing in, executing her high burst damage, then swapping out to Kaeya, inducing superconduct, and then dealing the damage until Keqing is ready to go again. As a support, Kaeya pairs well with pyro DPS such as Klee and Diluc. The elemental reaction Melt is created when a target is affected by either Cryo or Pyro, and then affected again by whichever one isn't already on the target. Melt works best when a target is affected by Cryo first, and then Pyro, as it will deal 2 times damage or 100% more Pyro damage to the target. However, if you apply Pyro first and then Cryo second, then Melt will only deal 1.5 times damage, or 50% more Cryo damage to the target. To get the most out of this reaction, the smartest thing to do would be to line up your large Pyro burst, apply Cryo, and then execute. You've probably seen this done before with the famous Mona Bennett combo using Vaporize. You likely won't be hitting in the 200Ks, but I'm sure you'll still get a pretty chunky damage number. And speaking of as a damage dealer, one of Kaeya's most interesting and powerful synergies is with the Hydro element. For this, I'd use Xingqiu. So basically when you freeze a target, usually they crack when you hit them with a claymore, but since we're using a sword, they won't shatter until the effect actually just wears off. This kind of operates like a long stun. A flashbang, if you will.
Look, he killed me with a stun. A stun, he can't use a stun.
During the frozen duration, you're free to wail on your target until they're released. And with Xingqiu, you can just keep them frozen. My favorite use of this combo is in Spiral Abyss versing the Whopper Flowers. They move so frequently, and you can waste so much stamina just chasing them down. But if you can keep them frozen in place, killing them is a breeze. This also allows you to do charge attacks on an enemy without launching them, saving stamina on the chase. Master this synergy and you'll be untouchable. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And again, if you haven't subscribed but you do like the content, please hit the subscribe button. That's all I have. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day and take care.